This is the May 24th meeting of the Wareham School Committee. The meeting is being recorded by and broadcast by WCTV, and an audio recording is being made by Mrs. Ruiz, recording secretary. Our first order of business is public participation. Would anyone like to come down? Please be seated and give your name. Yes,
thank you,
right
Angela.
there, Angela. Yes.
My name is Angela Dunham, President of the Wareham Historical Society. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. For the past 3 years, the Wareham Historical Society has been visiting the Minot Forest School and donating over 200 books to the third grade students there. It is a booklet that we are able to donate because of a generous grant from the Wareham Summer of Celebration Committee that, as you well know, 3 years ago now, we had the 275th Incorporation celebration of the town of Wareham. And through that grant, we're able to print up booklets. I commissioned 2 local artists who are Historical Society members, Donna Trurin and David Blanchett, to do 19 pictures of people and places in Wareham, various times in history. And the hope is that these children will go home and talk about, it's in a coloring book form, talk about the people and places in this booklet, and perhaps stir some conversation about the rich culture and history that we have here in Wareham. The people and places here certainly do not come anywhere close to honoring all of those who are responsible for the foundation of our community. However, we had to make it a short list, and we made it so that it was easy for these children to understand and appreciate. When I go in to the school, which I just did this past Tuesday, I present these books to the third graders, and I do a 45-minute presentation, or 2 of 45-minute presentations to the children, and explain to them a little bit about Wareham's history, and then I go over page by page with the booklet and talk to them a little bit about what's coming up for their field trip. They'll be making 2 field trips to us because the class will be split in half, and each group that comes will go through 4 of our 5 buildings. And the docents there will talk to them about the difference, of course, what it was like to live in the colonial times here in Wareham versus what it is today. And as interesting as it is for me, I'm sure you would find the same, when I sit there and tell them that there was no internet, there were no cell phones, there was no running water, there was no electricity, there were no cars, and so on, et cetera, et cetera. I suddenly get their attention because they can't quite get over, you know, that they didn't have all of these amenities back in the day. So I would like to, if I could please, come up and give each of you a copy of the booklet that goes out to the children with our compliments. And I just want to tell you how proud I am to be able to present this to the children. When they come through, our docents are just thrilled to have them there. And it's like having our grandchildren come by and visit. And we have the Fearing Tavern open, upstairs and downstairs for them, the meeting house, the chapel, and the schoolhouse, and they actually go in and participate in a mini presentation of what a school class would be like back in the 1800s. So I want to thank you again for having me here, and I look forward to coming back and talking to you about my trip to Japan and the fact that Mr. Hayato Sakurai came here from Japan this past March and did a presentation as well to the Minot Forest school children and to the children at the middle school, bringing gifts from the children of Japan to the children of Wareham. So I look forward to coming back for that.
Well, we thank you for everything that you do. I can't wait to see that People and Places booklet, and we really appreciate everything that you do, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you. We have a program also that's in the works. It hasn't started yet, but we're going to have a story hour through the Wareham Library also that will be based from the Historical Society with Marcia Hickey. And I believe there's a care program here that will be able to benefit from that as well. So that's coming down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just want to, it's okay.
You can come, he can speak while you're passing out.
I just wanted to say that I have multiple passions, but I'm the first to admit that local history isn't one of them. Nevertheless, I really admire the fact that you have that passion, and I thank you profusely for making local history real to so many of our young residents. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not that I'm above plugging the society. Here are my booklets, my pamphlets.
Do you know Hank Masty? Do you know Hank Masty? He's a fan of yours.
Thank you. There's one.
Thank you.
One of many, I suspect.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Thanks again. Our next item is good news. Would anyone like to speak? Anyone have any good news to share? Jamie?
So last time my Random Acts of Kindness Club got approved, I just kind of wanted to give an update to Mr. Sweat specifically because he asked me to give regular updates about it. So things are going really well. There's a lot of student interest. We've already had a couple meetings, and we're already organizing our first project of making goodie bags for the incoming freshmen to have on their first day.
I'm very appreciative. I did not expect an update that quickly, but any updates you give me, I will be happy to receive.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Joyce?
This past weekend, I attended the DECA auction, the 30-something annual DECA auction, which again was very successful. They were able to raise more than $4,000 for the program, so that was a great time.
I've lost track of the date. I think it was a week ago Sunday. I went to see the school play, and I expected it to be a very nice event. I found it to be a remarkable event. We have really some outstanding actors and actresses amongst us, and I think we should be extremely proud that they took a difficult story with difficult language and did it really appropriately in a way that I think really moved the audience, and I was one of those people that was moved.
Okay. Next item, the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500. Student Advisory Committee, is that like someone coming down? Okay. It's good to see you again.
You want to talk first? Nope. No? Okay, cool. Hello.
Hi.
What are we doing? Are we just talking? I thought they were gonna ask questions. Okay. Here, do you want to talk first? Because yours was the printer.
So, earlier in the year, I suggested to Mr. Palladino that we get a printer that can hook up to the Chromebooks, and it's finally in the library, and it's basically the best thing I've ever used, because the library computers take like 10 minutes to even get onto Google Docs alone, and I can just print off my laptop in like 2 seconds, so that's really nice.
Yep, it's
And you can print from like anywhere in the school, like you can get the printer from like everywhere. Yeah, everybody can print off of it.
I did it this morning. It was great.
Yeah, it's really nice to not have to use the library computers to print anymore.
So other than the printers, we also have been working on an update on the summer reading projects, because students tend to have little interest when they're kind of forced to read a book.
And we have to take a test, which not everyone's good at testing, and it doesn't really represent if they read the book or not, because you can spark note it
Yep.
and pass a test.
So we had a proposal that we gave to the department heads a couple weeks ago, and we haven't worked out all the details yet, but it seems like we're going to go in the direction of choice. So students will be able to choose their book with like guidelines, and they have to get approval and stuff like that.
Of course, AP kids will have a required book, because sometimes AP standards require a certain book to be read over the summer.
Yeah, but we're hoping that it kind of makes kids more interested in reading if they get to read something that they want to read about rather than something that they're forced to read about. So, yeah. Do you have any questions for us as the school committee? No? Okay. No? Oh, yes.
So when someone with a lot more literary experience asks you to read a book because they think it will be beneficial to your development as a human being, is that when you feel forced to read something?
It's more when, so teachers, I don't know if they specifically pick the book or if it's the department as a whole that picks the book for the year that like each grade level reads. But I know from my personal experience that I have never been interested in the topics that the books are about. And so I procrastinate reading it all throughout the summer. And then I don't read it and I just spark note it.
Sometimes they're good. Like, I enjoyed the Henrietta Lacks one, but every other person I talked to hated that book so much with a burning passion, and every single one of them just looked on Wikipedia to learn her story. Because, yeah.
So by giving students the opportunity to choose a book that they're more interested in, it still completes the purpose of summer reading, which is to keep kids thinking and to keep their brains going over the summer, so they don't lose the motivation from the school year.
Whose initiative was it to go from a mandated book to a choice?
All of ours.
Yeah, it was like my idea, but it's the
yeah.
committee as a whole that developed the plan.
And it's like, it's nice, even if you give us a list of books to choose from, there's got to be one book on it that we
you
can
like.
say, oh, I'd like to read that.
Because I am certain that Mr. Murray is a very interesting person, okay? And as the department head for that department that picks the books, I am sure that he has a good reason for every book that he asks people to read. Nevertheless, I admire the fact that you pushed and you've changed it so that you have more choices. But I think that there's a balance here. And,
Oh, yeah.
And have you ever spoken to Mr. Murray about his selections?
Well, we talked about it a little in the department head meeting. I was the one that went and presented to them the proposal. And I don't doubt that they have a reason for every book that they pick, because I know that as English teachers, like, they know a lot more about books than the rest of us. I just think that with students our age, like, the books that might be beneficial to us and might be helpful in our development and our learning might not help at all if we don't have the motivation and the desire to read it.
Or if they're in a style that it's just like,
Hard to understand.
I can't understand this. Like, usually they're not, but like the Henrietta Lacks one, that was a tough book to read, and I love to read a lot. And that was a tough book for me to read the entire thing. So like a kid who doesn't like to read must have looked at it and said, no, I'm not going to read that.
I could spend the rest of the evening, and then the chair would kick me, so I won't.
Well, I have something to say, too.
But I have a totally different topic. I believe it was the last meeting, but it might have been the one before that. Your principal and Mrs. Fondulis presented a report on the dropout rate. And Mrs. Fondulis specifically talked about the fact that there were 2 social workers that were hired who were making interventions with students who were perceived to be at risk for dropping out. Are you aware of any of that?
No.
No. Are you aware of people that you think are at risk for dropping out?
No.
None of your colleagues you think are at risk for dropping out?
I think that in both of our cases, we are both in like honors and AP level classes, and
then
so
the club activities, like we're in club activities, usually those kids don't tend to be part of after-school activities.
yes. So it's more like we don't see it because of the crowds that we're involved in and that we hang around with. So I know that my group of friends that I hang out with, we're all in the same clubs, we're in the same classes, we're in the same groups. And so I don't see a lot of the people that are in my grade because I don't have them in classes and they're not involved in clubs. So I wouldn't know if they were at risk to drop out or not.
I'll leave you with one final thought. I'm reading a book about, written by a journalist who visited multiple countries and followed foreign exchange students, American students who went to foreign countries. And one of the students went to Finland, and she was amazed at how, this is someone your age, at how hard the Finnish students worked. And finally, after months being there, she said, "Why do you work so hard at school?" And they looked at her like she had 2 heads. And she said, "No, seriously, why do you do that?" And they said, "Because it's the only way we're going to be successful." Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I have a comment back to the books. I love to read, but I used to hate the summer reading also because it wasn't the subject I chose. It seemed boring, and I totally procrastinated. And then I became an English teacher, too, studying. And I understand, I had a question to ask. When you have the books, do you have a study guide to go along with it that would like get you interested or tell you the... Because what you're missing, I always felt this, as an adult. I think it's that human factor. It's that teacher who's there to unpack that book for you, to get you excited about you, to review what you were reading the night before or whatever. You're missing that human element, which is really important, I think, when you're younger, and don't take chances in reading something that might be outside of the realm of what you would normally read. But that's all. It just goes to show how important the teacher is.
That's why, I was thinking, towards, having the honors or AP level, instead of taking a test on, a second book they have to read, having, a round table discussion that everyone has to take part in. So you can, because, everyone
book
reads
club.
a book. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of.
basically, a whole class where you just sit down and you just talk about the book, because someone will notice a different detail that you never caught.
Yes.
This will be our last meeting that you'll be at this year. Would either one of you like to share your plans for the summer?
Do you want to say anything? Because I'll say
Well,
stuff, but I don't know if you want to go first.
I'll be putting college stuff in order, because I still need to do stuff for that.
I'm going to London in August for 2 weeks for
Study?
to study in at a college there. It's a pre-college program, and so my parents are very, very nice and are letting me go to London and fly by myself.
Would you say that one more time?
My parents are very nice
I just,
and surprisingly letting me fly to a different country by myself. But so it'll be an interesting experience. I'll get to learn from different professors from all over the world about the business world and stuff like that, and I'll get to meet different students who speak different languages and are from different countries. But I think it'll be a really good experience. I'm excited. And then I'm working the rest of summer to pay it off, but
And I'll also be working with the music department and the drama club with the student advisory committee to vote on our plays and our programs for the next year. And marching band camp.
Sounds like fun. Well, thank you for all your presentations all year, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, financial reports. Mr. McMillan?
how dull.
you.
Okay. Good evening, school committee. I've submitted the expenditure reports through to the end of April. So we are in reasonable shape for this stage in the year. There continues to be a couple of areas of concern, some we've talked about before, and one or two new ones. And sort of in reflection of that, or in response to that, as I mentioned in the summary of the report, we have asked principals and directors to restrict expenditure through to the end of the year to only the most essential purchases. And this reflects that there are a few areas where we seem likely to go over budget if we haven't already. But hopefully by restricting, by restricting expenditure, we'll be okay. We're exactly where we should be in the key areas like teacher salaries. So from that respect, I'm comfortable. Any particular questions on the report itself?
I'm good.
One account, employee separation costs down to 0%.
Yep.
Oh, it was approved, okay. I see it in the right-hand column. We have a transfer to put into that account?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have done that. Well, and I don't expect to have any more separation costs really in that, but I don't know of anybody else who's leaving. That's really for where we have someone who's leaving and they're allowed, for example, for us to buy back their sick time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only a couple of contracts that happens in, and it happened at the start of the year.
Okay. That was the only one.
I do have two transfer requests, sir. So I'll take them in order. So the first one is for substitutes. So it was with some trepidation that I put substitutes in here as a transfer request.
Good.
Yeah, but I think the nature of this particular request is something that I can justify. So we have a couple of positions where staff have left and the principals have requested to fill these positions with long-term substitutes rather than full-time employees. So that means the people who were there they're not drawing a salary anymore because they've left. So their budgeted salary, there's a surplus there, whereas now we're paying that out of the substitute line. So that's the reason for the request. And the second request was for legal services, where our legal services, that is for legal services for the entire district, although it's called School Committee Legal Services. It covers the entire district, because essentially the way it works is the school committee is essentially the legal representative for the school district, so all the legal services are for you. And we've just, due to the number of salary negotiations or contract negotiations we've had and a need for legal advice, that function has gone into deficit. And meanwhile, over in Decus Heating, due to the new project we've had there to replace the boilers, there's been a surplus, an underspend in heating, which is why we're able to transfer the money over.
Any questions? Okay.
So that's a nice positive. We're already, in a very short period of time, seeing the increased efficiency of those
It's not just
boilers.
that. So it's partly that, but it's more that so partly it's because there's a more efficient boilers, and that has helped to drive down costs, but it's also because as we transitioned boilers, there was a temporary boiler that was paid for in a different way, and so that was part of the deal with the contractor, that they would provide that.
But there is some efficiency.
So there is some efficiencies.
Okay. So you budget for legal expenses for the school committee in anticipation of this, correct?
Yes.
We actually went over your anticipated budget.
Yes.
I don't remember having particularly lengthy negotiations compared to other years. were you excessively frugal in budgeting this
So
account?
in the last couple of years, our legal costs have gone up significantly, and that's partly to do with negotiations, partly to do with our need for legal advice in a whole bunch of different situations. And, the last year was also high, and the year before that, which is what we based this year's budget on, was a lot lower.
So is there anything you think the school committee should do to reduce costs? Do you have any concerns about our behavior in this regard? This is a great opportunity to zing us.
So, Mr. Sweat. No, so I think this is not, to be honest, this is more to do with, the need for legal advice within the district rather than directly by the school committee.
So we're appropriately using legal counsel, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay. And the cost per hour has not changed,
Not
correct?
significantly, no. No,
Okay.
it's not that. It's that we are using more hours, not that the cost per hour has
Just
gone up.
circumstances are dictating where it's prudent to get legal advice.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Don't say I didn't give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
Mary?
So still talking about the legal advice and everything, I noticed that looking at the budget from last year, that it's actually doubled.
Yeah.
So do you expect that to happen again?
So we don't have as many negotiations coming up next year. So that part of it, and I'm hoping will help to reduce the costs. It's hard to tell. So, I look at the trajectory for the last 4 or 5 years. It kind of, bobs along around 30,000, and then it starts to go down. Well, increase, if you like, rather. The cost increases significantly over the last couple of years. So I suspect, I hope we're either going to level off around this level, if not come down slightly. And that might be being excessively optimistic.
And this is, I obviously don't expect an answer, but do you think there's anything in that we could prevent at all?
It's hard to tell. Often these are such situations that arise for a whole bunch of different reasons. Ironically, probably as we work closer with, in a way, working closer with legal counsel early on to nip issues in the bud, that sort of thing. But, we're always trying to reduce our costs in all ways we can.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. Am I correct that the chair of the school committee and the superintendent are the only two people authorized to engage legal counsel?
So the superintendent might correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Director of Student Services also, in conjunction with the superintendent, will draw on legal advice in particular situations. But apart from that, I think yes.
And I would also add that if there are situations in the schools, the principals will notify me, and I will then request that they contact legal, so there's a direct link.
But you're still approving it.
I still am approving it.
So can the Director of Student Services call directly without your knowledge to a legal counsel?
Yes. We have two legal counsels. We have a legal counsel for student services, and we have a legal counsel for the district. And depending on the situation, will depend on, the Director of Student Services never accesses our district legal counsel without my knowledge. They may access their legal counsel for advice depending on the situation without informing me to make the call.
And is the line item for legal services for special education the same line item?
Yep.
So even though it says school committee, it's in fact the combination
It's the whole district, yeah,
of both
for any
student
situation.
services and
Yes.
district services. I'm not sure how my colleagues feel, but and I'm not questioning the appropriateness of the Director of Student Services having access, but I'm almost thinking there should be two lines.
Yeah.
And that legal services for student services uniquely should be part of the student services major account.
Yeah.
I'm not making a motion to that effect. I'd like to just plant that seed, and maybe you could get back to us, and the superintendent could get back to us, because I think it would be more appropriate if we're monitoring that. Because, for example, do you know how much of the current budget is student services versus district services?
I don't have it to hand, but I can get it because I know which lawyers
But
we use.
I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing what's driving it, if that is part of the cost or not. You know, the rise, the
As I said,
dramatic
I don't know
rise.
how my colleagues feel about that, but I'd like to see it separated into two lines, and the student services line become part of that major account.
That's entirely possible, entirely reasonable. We can do that.
Okay. And I have no idea whether it takes to change that account, takes a vote of the school committee, but it probably should, because we're moving things from one major account to another. So, and I'm not suggesting we need to vote on it tonight.
Maybe one for the next financial year.
Right. But so, Madam Chair, if you could put that on for a future vote, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, next.
Take a motion
Oh.
for the transfers?
Right.
Motion to transfer the funds as indicated on the document provided to us?
Second.
Is it for both at once?
Yes, that's my motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, 500.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Next, we have a vote to ratify the Wareham Education Association's contract, and I'll turn that over to our superintendent.
Thank you. I'm pleased to bring the MOA for your approval to you this evening. We've been meeting with the Educators Association, which is Unit A. We have a 3-year contract, which will begin on September 1st, 2017, and will end on August 31st, 2020. Whew, that's something, isn't it? Throughout the agreement, there have been some changes. For example, teachers are able to roll their unused personal days into sick days at the end of the school year. We have added one additional work day for teachers, so they will now have 4 professional development days instead of 3. And because of this, there will be an adjustment to the school calendar, which will be brought forward at the next school committee meeting for your vote. The salary over the 3-year period, in year 1, it will increase by 3%. In year 2, will increase by 3%. And in year 3, will increase by 3%, but will also have some modifications in the salary schedule at that time. I certainly appreciate the work of the educators on the committee, as well as the committee members who met and worked this agreement out, and I would ask the school committee to please vote your approval.
Do I have a motion to ratify the WEA contract?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just a comment. I wanted to echo the superintendent's comments. It's a legally, naturally adversarial process, but I believe both parties acted in good faith, and I think it was a constructive process, and I appreciate the WAA's participation in it.
Any other comments? I'd like to take a motion to.
You have a
I
motion.
did. Okay, vote. All those in
Just a
favor?
vote. Aye.
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 500.
Thank you very much.
Next, superintendent's report.
Yes. Well, before that, I would like to ask the committee to please vote to have for payroll warrant to be signed. When the committee voted prior, they voted specific names. And so only Mr. Lazarus could sign, or the vice chair, who's Judy at the time. So I would like to ask that the committee vote for both the chair and the vice chair without any names to be able to sign the payroll warrant. This will allow, when there's a change, the other person would be able to come forward and make the signature when necessary, and it will not necessitate this coming back to the committee for a vote. So at this time, I would like to ask you to make a motion to please designate the chair or vice chair to sign payroll warrant.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question. This is an or, not an and, right? So
Yes.
either one.
Yes.
And are there any legal implications to this? We have the authority to do this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Could I have a vote on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 500.
Thank you very much. On the vote for payroll, I would be asking for two approvals. The first with the week ending May 13th in the amount of $152,340.37. Again, the payroll on the week ending May 20th, 2017 in the amount of $834,330.55.
Do I have a motion to, what?
Through
Go ahead.
you. There was a huge difference between those two payrolls. Did I hear that correctly?
You
One
did.
was 100 and some thousand, and the other was 800 and some thousand?
Because some staff are on biweekly.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500.
Second, I would ask for approval for the bill warrant on May 25th in the amount of $152,528.74.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500.
And finally, we are now in our season of celebration, and so certainly issue invitations to all citizens to attend our first graduation. Will be on May 31st. It's our night school graduation. It will be at 5 o'clock at the high school. Also on May 31st, we will have the athletic awards. That's at 6 o'clock. And on June 1st, at 6:30, we have the underclassmen awards. So please, if you'd like to come and help celebrate, you're more than welcome to attend. We will have another meeting before graduation, and we'll share additional dates at that time. That concludes my report this evening.
Thank you. And next, we have the policies. Let's see. The recommendations come from the Policy Review Committee, and the first policy is the distribution of condoms, and there were no changes to this policy. So do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Next is our retention policy. We changed the name Support Team to Student Support Council, which is what it's called now. And then there was a punctuation typo in a paragraph. And other amendments were approved as presented. Yes?
Could someone define for me, because this is the first time I've ever seen it, Student Support Council, what is it?
It is the principal It could be the school psychologist, the counselor, certainly the teachers, any person that works with the child. And when a student is struggling in school, there's a group of educators that meet to see how we can make modifications, support the student, and work with them to improve their academic achievement. And this is one of the first steps that we would take when we've identified a student having significant difficulties.
I'm not surprised it already has an acronym. So the SSC, is this a legally required
Yes.
entity?
Yes.
And yet in a decade or more, I've never even seen it referenced.
Used
So-
to be TAC. Used to be TAC,
Yeah.
Teacher Assistant Council.
Okay,
And they were calling it the support team. They
Right.
just have a
Yeah.
different name for what they're doing.
okay, so it's legally required, and the people on it are named by whom? The principal?
It would be the
Depends.
principal,
It
along
depends on the
with-
need.
Like guidance is usually on it, a teacher
Yeah.
representative's usually on
Right.
it.
special educator. We certainly like
Because you
to have
have
a
to make
special
every
educator.
attempt to resolve
No,
problems the student's
I-
having before they come to an evaluation, and you have to document the attempts to resolve and do what you can to work with the students.
So-
So this is what it is, if I'm not mistaken.
So in the end, with regard, because this policy is called retention, in the end, the Student Support Council makes a recommendation to the principal with regard to retention or not? Is that in essence what we're saying?
They are a supportive body of educators that would be reviewing the student's progress or lack thereof in making this determination.
Well, that's my question. Is it a determination or is it a recommendation?
Well, it's a recommendation that then you meet with the parent and have parent discussion. Of course, we certainly hope that the parental involvement has happened long before this process.
I get that, but they make a recommendation, and it's ultimately the principal that makes a determination in consultation with the parent and the council. Is that
That's
a-
true.
Is that a correct statement?
That is true.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is the council one set of people, is that one set of people for every student, or does it change depending on who the student is?
Do you mean, are the members the same for the year?
Yes. Yes.
There's some core members, and then depending on the student that they would be bringing, certainly the child's teacher would be involved.
Okay, okay.
Any more questions? Do I have a motion to approve the policy?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Next policy is the concussion policy, and we brought that back for review because you caught something on there, Mr. Sweat. And we changed the diagnosis could be either a physician or an athletic trainer, but the approval had to be, to go back to play, had to be from the physician. And also, in these policies, we were doing gender-neutral pronouns, or trying to find a noun to substitute. So we changed the last sentence, he, she, to the athlete.
I would like to thank the work of the Policy Review Committee. The document is now fine with me.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to accept or to approve this policy?
So moved.
A second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Distribution of school meeting documents. The amendment reflects how the documents are currently being made to the public. The former policy said that parents could ask for the documents for the school committee, but we've been having them on the table for the parents to get, or anyone, who came in to the meeting. So that is in the policy now, so we get credit for what we're doing. It illustrates what we're doing correctly. Yes?
So distribution can be either, we've deleted by mail or electronically in the first sentence, and I understand why. But distribution can be both electronic and by paper. And is this, it seems like this policy intentionally omitted, which is fine, any reference to when documents that are going to be discussed at the school committee meeting will be put online.
I think
Was that
there was
intentional?
already policy on that we have to have that out and from another policy. It's the law, and it's in someplace else.
Yes, when we get ready to post the agenda, we go through the documents, and we post whatever is applicable, sorry.
Got it.
To be posted. Yeah, I'm glad, because I'm not saying it again. And then after the meeting, all documents are then posted. So there could be a document that we're discussing that has not been seen by the committee yet that we would like to discuss or have you have first shot at, or first privy at. And then we will post that after the meeting.
And it's your understanding there's a separate policy for that?
There is a policy that we have to post the documents prior to the meeting.
Okay, because posting and distribution, I'm sure some lawyer would say it's essentially the same thing, but okay. We may want to consider in the future of consolidating those two policies into one.
Mm-hmm.
Move approval.
Second? Do I have a second? Thank you. Joyce did the second, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 500. Public participation at school committee meetings. I had asked for the policy to be held because the public participation and public comments are two different things, and I think I noticed that the selectmen call it public comment now. And I wanted to come in line with that because the committee has a right to listen, but not to be responding at that point. So it's more of a public comment session. More accurately describes what it is. And also change he, she to citizen, gender neutral.
Move approval for discussion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I'd be curious, refresh my memory, it's you and who else is on the policy review?
Now it's
Lori.
Lori, I'd be curious as to what kind of discussion occurred over this policy. Was there any thought given to the timing of the public comment period? Was there any thought given to increasing the likelihood that people would, in fact, make comments feeling that it would have some value? Could that be, I'd love to hear what other members of the committee had talked about with regard to this policy.
We did talk about where it would come in the meeting and voted to keep it at the beginning. And also, something did come out of it in order to inform the public or have a discussion with the public. I'll have Madam Superintendent tell you what it is.
Yes, we're going to be starting a social media campaign where we're going to be posting answers to questions that people have. So if somebody has a question, there'll be a site on our website, as well as developing a Facebook page where people can submit their questions, and we will provide them with the facts. And so we certainly will be working at directing people to ask questions and receive accurate information.
Great, because I think if people have information, if they're informed, their comments are likely to be that much more pertinent and valuable to us.
Yes.
Thank you.
We all, yeah,
Oh,
tell who's
sorry.
on it. to explain.
Yeah, Joyce and Lori are helping with it.
Wonderful.
And we'll be on
Thank
it.
you.
But I also would stress to the public that this is not just contained to our school committee meetings. So if you have a question about something that's going on in a school, or if you have a question about something that's upcoming in the district, we certainly would urge you to go to that site and ask the question.
And we hope this cuts down on frustration of not being able to get questions answered. So,
I think we can vote.
yes. I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Then we got back to senior privileges, and what we voted on was to keep it for the principal to come and ask to have this policy on a yearly basis in case there was a change, and also to delete the his and her to make it gender neutral again, which we were trying to do in all the documents. So it's actually the same document with the pronouns changed.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve this policy?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500. Funding proposal and applications. There was changes suggested in the paragraph to insert grants or other funds in the sentence. The superintendent shall make periodic reports to the school committee regarding the expenditure of grants or other funds, because all our funds do not come in the form of grants. Is that the right way to explain it? Say? And then also insert awarded to the district in the sentence. No money awarded to the district shall be paid by a grantor directly to an employee or vendor. Any questions about that? Yes.
Oh, I appreciate that change. This very direct comment, no expenditure intended to be funded by grants or other funds shall be authorized or obligated prior to actual receipt of such funds or an authorized written funding commitment. That's a pretty strong statement. Are we living with that statement?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much doesn't cut it.
Well, yeah, we don't spend money if we don't have money.
You don't spend any money if you don't have the money or you don't have a written commitment to provide the money, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Not pretty much, that's an absolute, correct?
We don't spend money.
Okay, okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the funding proposal?
So moved.
Second? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 500. And then we updated the student exchange policy. To, I know it was the sentence, to reflect.
It's quite a
I'm
few
just looking for the
updates, actually.
sentence.
Basically, the whole second paragraph.
Basically what?
The whole second paragraph.
Yeah, exactly.
I just didn't see an explanation in the minutes, but I know the big change was, it used to say housed in Wareham, and there were students coming
I
next
noticed
year
that,
who are
yeah.
going to be housed in
Stonehill.
Stonehill College. And that was the reason to update the policy. So that was the big change. Was there another change in the paragraph?
And that they must hold an F1 student visa.
And they had to have that student visa in order to be in the program, the student exchange, the F1 student visa that comes from Homeland Security.
But there's, just to be clear, there's an or, not an and. So what this is saying is they don't need an F1 student visa if they're sponsored by a service organization or a student exchange program. Is that the intent?
What we would be talking about, a student exchange, would be a short term, because if a student's coming here for a long term or a year long or a semester long, we must have an F1 visa.
In which case, the or should say and, shouldn't it?
As long as it doesn't exclude us hosting short term.
The students who come for a few weeks don't have that.
I take your point, but are they technically part of a student exchange program if they're not enrolled for an extended period of time? In other words, are they simply visiting as compared to being an actually exchanged student?
Well, we could call them visitors.
Well, I'm just trying to simplify it, because I think when people think of a student exchange program, they don't think of someone just visiting for a couple of weeks. They think of someone as coming here for at least a semester, if not a year. So if that's the case, we could simply change or to and be fine, as long as you don't think this is intended to cover visits.
I think of the students who come to visit as exchange. We're doing exchanges with them for a few weeks at a time. We go visit them, they come visit us. I mean, it's exchanging, though.
In which case, it wouldn't work to just change or to and, because...
I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that, but people don't think that way, you know.
So is this supposed to cover both then, the exchange where they just come for a visit and also the exchange where they're actually tuition-based? So it's covering both? Because my concern would be, you know, that we have nothing in here that, like, we have the right to terminate if there's, you know, a problem. I don't foresee a problem, but if there happens to be a problem, and also what if they, which probably won't likely happen either, what if they don't pay their tuition?
Yes, we would terminate. In the agreements that we would enter into with the exchange program, it's a very strict as far as discipline and behavior. So that covers us without it being in the policy, but we could put it in the policy. And the tuition, before we would accept a student, the tuition is paid up front. We
It
would
is,
not.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my colleague is bringing up a good point. I think this, especially in anticipation of increased use of this policy, I think maybe this should be tabled, reworked, to make it more complete, and brought back, unless the superintendent thinks there's some urgency about it tonight.
No, we don't have an urgency. We've ended our policy review for this current year, so we would bring it back up in the fall, if that works for everybody.
That's fine.
If that's fine with everybody else, that's my recommendation, that I move to table it.
Okay.
I
Do we
think
have to vote
technically,
for that, or just-
technically I have to table it to a date certain, so when do you think would be a good time to bring it back?
It doesn't-
October.
October, it wouldn't be
I
before
move.
October.
Okay, then I move to table it until the first meeting in October.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500. Okay. I think we're on, finished. Are there any other business? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Aye.
Good evening. Good night.